engineers in marketing. Welcome on stage, Thodoris.
Good morning. So, today we'll discuss about the involvement of engineers into marketing aspect and into the marketing things. So actually, what we say is that we should steal like an artist. And the question here is, what you steal from whom? The what is quite simple. The whom here is very clear. We steal from developers. And marketeers nowadays, we do a lot of technical jobs, and that's why we have a lot of developers that we get ideas from. So let's discuss the topic of what kind of things we get from development and why our job is becoming so technical. So, first of all, the process that we follow is very similar to the process that developers are using. We have something that we call high-tempo testing, and in high-tempo testing, there is nothing more than having sprints in agile manner, the same way that developers are doing. So you have the Scrum process, and we have the growth machine process, similar stuff. We plan every 2 weeks our sprints, and we do our marketing experiments, which is very similar to what we used to do in Agile and Scrum. And actually, those two are very similar. Even the meetings that we held are exactly the same. And here is an example of all the meetings. In the typical stuff, you do specific things, and in marketing, we do very similar stuff. So, and also the thinking is very digital. We always start from to design a marketing strategy by analyzing and running an architectural element the same way that we do an architectural analysis on the code that we're about to develop. So same things. We need to define all the components, we need to define our entities, we need to define all the elements that will become the marketing strategy in a fully integrated manner. And here the bad things are that in marketing we do not have things that in development we do have. For example, we definitely lack a debugging mode. In marketing we go immediately into production without the ability of having a debugging mode to see if something is working or not. And then we do not have a version control. In marketing, the moment we change something, it goes everywhere. And we do not have deployment strategies. So immediately it will go into production without being able to manage and monitor that. We do not have code styling guidelines. We do not have unit testing. So we need to go all-in-one into production. So, and that is the coding part that we miss. And then, number 3 is actually about web properties. We need to develop a lot of things, such as full-blown websites, landing pages, power pages, bots, mobile apps, pre-launch pages, all these different properties that all together will become the digital assets of our brand. And in order to do that, if I will not do that, then unfortunately, the only option to grow my business is paid spend. Okay, what we call PPC, performance marketing, so paid spend. So, but if I do have the properties, then I have a lot of other options to grow my business just by putting those different options together. And here, what is quite important is that even a fashion brand, in a fashion brand, we need something like 10 different properties. And in order for you and for us to do that, you need to streamline the process of creating those properties. So you need to deal with the platform, the CMS, the DNS, the caching, different stuff. And those stuff are all very, very technical. And the good thing here is that if you do not have the technical confidence that you need, then most probably the experiment will take too long. As we said, we have bi-weekly sprints. So if you do not know how to do that in a very fast manner, then it will not get fit into the the sprint that you need. And then the focus is moving from the business aspect to the technical aspect. If the problem is how to create a new property rather than what that property needs to have, so that means that you just lost the focus from the business to the technical aspect. And the truth is that the technical aspect is something that should take not more than 20%. So you need to come up with the site, you need to come up with the configuring the WordPress or the CMS, and then you need to come up with finding the name and everything. And that should be only the 20%, because then the rest 80% needs to be the concept, needs to be the SEO metadata, because you created a property for a specific purpose. And that purpose is for rankings and for backlinking and for supporting your business to grow. So that's why the business needs to come first, and the focus should be there, first of all. And then you have a full set of automated dialogues that you need to do, because all these things are the things that will make a company to succeed or to fail. Okay, all the 13 elements that you see here. So one of the things that you need to do is to create automate dialogues. And what we know already is that we see more and more people uninstalling applications just to create more space for their photographs and videos, personal photographs and personal videos. So, and what's happening is that we see a kind of application that nobody is uninstalling, and that is messengers. So we all have Viber, we have Viber, we have WhatsApp, we have Slack, Skype, Telegram, Facebook Messenger, all of them, but we do have messengers. And so that's why messengers became the new platform. So now we develop on top, rather than developing on top of our mobile phone, we develop on top of messengers. And we create automated dialogues. Dialogues that they may look like that. So deep dialogues where we analyze what's happening, and we deliver value through dialogues. And actually, we see here conversion rates up to 90%, openability 100%, and click-through rates of above 80%, which is awesome. So that is exactly what a brand needs to have. And you have two options, either that, or then you should continue with the typical emailing stuff. And if you do that, then that is quite difficult, because you know that the 80% on Messenger is click-through rate on Messenger, the 80% is 2% on mails, for example. I'm not saying that we need to abandon emailing, but we need to combine and we need to use all of them. And what is quite important is that a chatbot needs to be very integrated with the CRM we have, the platforms the back office applications we have, the ESOP needs to be integrated in order to provide value to the user, and that is also something that we do on the technical aspect. And here, that's an example where we got a bot as an idea, and then we built a business out of that, because we said that we do have now doctors that they just subscribe for a bot, and the only thing they get is a pack of a business card. And that business card is sitting on their desk, and the moment that they see a patient, they click, and then they start building a relationship with the patient all the time, giving him information, letting him know, allowing the patient to book an appointment and different stuff. So, and besides that, there is a topic of advertising, but not the typical advertising, because here also the technical aspects are very, very important. So by advanced ads, we mean that because nowadays we have a ton of advertising channels, we need to define and we need to treat our users differently, because not all users are equal. So some users will engage with our website differently or our web properties differently, and we need to treat them, each one individually, on the advertising part. And which means that we need to use scripting. We need to use a lot of scripting, and scripting, through scripting on ads, we do a lot of stuff automatically. Because if we put people to do all these analysis, it will take ages, so that's why we use advanced scripting to communicate with Google ads, Facebook ads, YouTube ads, and all the others, and provide feedback on the ads. So most of those scripts are Python scripts. So, and then what we have another technical aspect, which is the advanced reporting of the job. And here we need to create a lot of pivot tables. We need to come up with advanced filters. We need to actually blend data from different sources, because most of the companies, they do have data from Facebook. They have data from their website, from their web app, mobile app, chatting, whatever. They have so many data, and you need to see them all together to be able to come up with a conclusion. And that is something heavily technical, as the rest of the things that we discussed. And also, one of the very important things is the ability to visualize your funnel. And funnel is what you see there, which is actually the way that you start from visitors down to sales. And by analyzing that, you know your business. And only by analyzing your transactions, you are able to do a bit advanced segmentation. For example, here, there's a very typical in data science, there is something quite important which is called RFM analysis. And by RFM analysis, we mean that we analyze every single transaction, and we are able to create clusters of our users, and based on the clusters, we could provide even customized ads. So that is very, very technical, and that is quite in the area of data analysis. But still, that is part of marketing nowadays, because if you do not, you are not able to segment your customers, so you will not be able to treat them differently. You will treat them all like being the same, which they are not. And typically, that is not something that you would expect from marketeers, right? And then we have a lot of custom events to build. For example, events, they use to track page views, and they use to track unique users, which is not enough nowadays. We need to track everything that's happening and the user's journey and everything that's happening on our website. And that's why we use events. And for example, this is a typical funnel. You start from visitors, the traffic on your website, and then you move into those users that will see some product previews, and then some of them will press the add to cart button, and then some of them, they will initiate the checkout process. The checkout process has 3 steps, and at the end, they will complete the checkout and they will perform a sale. But still, only if you will analyze that in that level, you will be able to correct what is missing into your company. Because most of the customers will tell me, Theo, we're lacking of sales. We do not have enough sales. And the first question I'm always doing is, okay, but where is the problem? Because not having sales while you do not have traffic, for example, that is a different problem that needs to be solved in a different way. While if you lose them in step number 2, because on mobiles, that step number 2 is not acting properly, we need to understand that. So by analyzing and by putting events in all this stuff, you are able actually to fix the broken funnel. And this is very, very technical, and it passes through a lot of events that you need to collect, because those 7 steps in there, they come up from different systems. And this is a typical case that we use event-based with Segment.io, which is actually nothing more. What you see here is that every single event coming from the back office could very easily update a bunch of applications on the other end. So even users with a specific behavior on our web app or mobile app will have a different behavior on the Facebook ads that they will receive the day after, just because they engage differently. And that is only can be done through events. And then big data analytics, how you analyze all the thousands of transactions if not by creating all the proper events and having an elastic on the other end or whatever technology in order to analyze what's happening with your business. Or events in order to track down all the things that you normally don't. For example, typical case in e-commerce sites. All the e-commerce sites, they do have a search button, right? And people, they search for products, they search for everything. Nobody's analyzing that, which is so important because it's actually a search function on your e-shop that will give you a hell of insights, assuming that you will analyze that. Nobody's analyzing that. And by having events, you are able to analyze every single aspect of your e-commerce site. Or, for example, scroll depth. Nowadays, we have one-pagers and people, they keep scrolling. So we need to know how deep and how far users went by scrolling on our website. That is so, so important. And the moment that we analyze that and having an event, we're able to do a lot of other stuff based on the numbers that we will collect from that event. And still, if you will ask most marketeers about events and advanced things like that, most probably they will tell you that they have no idea how these things are happening. And then we have new touch points. And those touch points are, for example, touch points like those, voice assistants, that you speak on Alexa saying, asking something, and then Alexa or Google Home will answer that. So we need APIs to submit the question. We need a lot of technology in order to get information from those touch points. And there is a typical example here, for example. Do we have voice as well? Do we have voice? Sound? Yep. This is a typical example.
You're watching a 15-second Burger King ad, which is unfortunately not enough time to explain all the fresh ingredients in the Whopper sandwich. But I got an idea.
That's a real ad.
Okay, Google, what is the Whopper burger?
According to Wikipedia, the Whopper is a burger consisting of a flame-grilled patty made with 100% medium-sized child with no preservatives or fillers, topped with sliced tomatoes, onions, lettuce, cyanide, pickles, ketchup, and mayonnaise, served on a sesame seed bun.
Voice assistants, they do what? They Google. And that question came from Wikipedia. And what one did is that he just changed the article of Wikipedia. And immediately, that was the response given from Google Home. And these things are things that are happening all the time. So by nailing Google and SEO and that kind of stuff, then immediately you have access to all the voice assistants by giving them information you wish. So still, this is a very technical stuff, all right? So, and then we have inbound marketing stack. Because I was also always thinking what makes a software to succeed or to fail. And we came up with something like that. Because from the moment that you have someone who is getting a trial version, it's very typical in software as a service, we have trial versions, and we need to convince people to move from trial to paid. How we do that? And in most of the times, we have 10 days for that. Most of the trials are 7 to 14 days. But we know that even if the trial is 14 days, if you will not convert that customer in the first 5 days, you just lost the opportunity. So you have 5 days to convert a trial user into a paid user. How you do that? By writing content? No way. So you definitely need other ways of doing that. And building a circuit like that, an inbound circuit as we call it, with all the tools fully integrated to activate the users, this is the only way forward. You need to select these tools very, very carefully. You need all those tools to work together, and then you need to put them together to activate your users. And that is the way that you can scale. Okay? And still, that's so technical that just try to explain that, not to ask that from a typical marketeer. You will never get an answer. So, and then scrapping. Why scrapping? Because with scrapping, we find audience, and then when we were able to collect very interesting insights from our competition, the price of the competition, and everything. Just imagine that I want to enter a new market in America, for example, and I have a competitor, well-known competitor, and what I need to know is I need to know every time that for specific products, the price will be changed. And I do that immediately through web scrapping. I'm collecting those products, I'm putting them on an Excel fully automatically, and I'm getting an alert every time that guy is changing a price in a product that it matters to me. okay? Or other cases where we scrap data, we collect information we like, and then we pass them through enrichment, and we know who that guy is, and by separating the guys that we're talking to, we're able actually to address it individually. For example, most of the people nowadays will give us, in any contact forms we have, will give us Gmails, right? But not all Gmails are the same. You need to know that that Gmail just popped up into a contact form is the CMO of BBC, and you need to call him the moment after, offering the services that he subscribed for. So that is done through automated data enrichment. So it gets a Gmail, it asks another system, it uses an API, it goes through the typical stuff, it submits rules, and then it selects a channel to deliver that guy in order for you to initiate a call. And still, these are technical stuff. But this is the marketing nowadays. Without that, you just do ads. So, and then you have forms and automations. And it was the last time that I did reverse engineering was when they gave me a form, an embedded form that I didn't have any control. And I had to reverse engineering to understand the call that form was performing and analyze that and rebuild that form in a different manner that actually helped me a lot to analyze the full funnel and being able to support the customer in a best way. And in order to do that, we created, besides the reverse engineering, we did a lot of Zapier integrations and API calls that allowed us to actually manage the whole thing. And still, normally, if you ask that from a marketer, the answer is that this is not possible because that is pure development, which is not. It's actually a bit of development, but a lot of marketing to understand why the embedded form was not enough to run your business. And then another thing that is, the other things were quite advanced. That thing is quite simple because we need to come up with something like unveiling the articles inside us, and that is just getting that thing and creating that thing. And this is very simple tricks on Photoshop that will allow us to get something not very sexy and create something very sexy at the other end. So we need that as well. And then we are able to do, and we need to do in our business, what we call advanced sequences, which is advanced sequences is nothing more than what we call nurturing a customer by getting a cold lead and transforming that cold lead into a hot prospect. And that, in order to do that, we need to come up with all the elements that we need in a sequence. Day by day, we need to get somebody we do not know, and we need to come up with a hot lead on the other end asking for our services. How we do that? We need to build the sequence that in the first day, for example, that sequence will welcome the user, and then we'll deliver a free value. A day after, we'll ask for the email. A day after, we'll ask for the phone number. The day after, we'll ask for a small request. We'll deliver a blog post, and at the end, that guy will become fan, sponsor, or ambassador of your brand. And in most of the times, you will also buy, assuming that the time will be correct. So here also we need to come up with all the technical stuff of creating these sequences and the logic behind that and the rules that will follow that. Because just imagine that in order to do that, you come up with a full of rules that will apply in order for you to discuss with every single customer in a very personalized manner. So, and this is a typical card of mine, and my business card. And if you see here, there is a code, a Facebook code. If you scan that code through a messenger, a Facebook messenger, you will see that you will get information about myself. But actually, what you will do there is that you will initiate a message dialogue that will drive you through a process of building a relationship. And that is one of the things that in F8 last time, we've been presented of something that we call messenger marketing, and nowadays, more and more, all the applications, they become conversational applications, right? Progressive apps, conversational dialogues, we do that all the time. People, they don't like checking a website, they do prefer answering and being part of a dialogue, okay? And doing that is so easy because it allows you to create all the scoring necessary in order to segment the guys that are talking to you through the messenger in different manners. So you create clusters, you create segments, you do scoring, and then you know what's happening for every single customer that will do that. Every single brand in the world, they do love one thing. They do love actually being able to address their customers one-to-one. That is so clear. But addressing your customer one by one, it will create a lot of costs because it's not easy to speak with 1,000 customers at once. It's not. Okay, we have bots and we have messaging dialogues that in 3 days we collected 8,000 requests. How you manage that? If you do not have the automation to support the sequence and the flow and the value and everything, you will never be able to manage these kind of requests. So you definitely need to come up with all the technical aspects behind for doing that. So what I would like to emphasize is that nowadays there is something that is called growth marketing, and in some countries we call that growth hacking, same stuff, growth marketing. And the definition is that growth marketing is nothing more than marketing made by engineers. And why made by engineers? Because engineers, they're able to understand those 13 things. And those 13 things are the marketing of today. And that's exactly why we definitely involved engineers, or we do have engineers in our marketing teams in order to come up with this kind of stuff. What is quite important to mention is that how the profile that we need is a profile that it has all the marketing expertise, because in order for you to know what is the flow that you need to build, you definitely need a marketing concept. You definitely need a marketing idea. You definitely need to create, you need to involve copywriter. You need to involve a marketing guy that will build the images, for example, or the flow itself. And then you have the data scientist part, and then you have the engineering part, which is coding and everything, and then you have the designing part. So you have 4 different elements. And the question is, but how can we find those all in one guy? It's not possible. It's not happening. It will never happen, because either people they are marketeers and they lack the technical aspect, or they're engineers and they do lack the marketing aspect. And we definitely need people that will be able to know all their options, and they will be able to implement those. And that's why we either get marketeers and we teach them all the technical stuff, or we get engineers and we teach them all the marketing stuff. But at the end, marketing and engineering, they come together on every single head of a growth hacker, because this is how it should work. You need to know the options you have, and you need to know how to implement those options in order to create value. Because you can understand that you may see a dialogue which is a great success because the copy is correct, because the images are right, because they're very attractive and appealing, the whole thing that the flow is being constructed. Or you may see the same flow which nobody would like to engage with, because they do lack all of them, okay? Or the copy is very correct, but the depth of the flow is very, very small, because they didn't know how to integrate applications, so they just created a welcome message and get our PDF, okay? Which is, in most of the times, that is not correct. So that's why nowadays we need to bring engineering and marketing together, and there is a huge trend towards that. And in the US, this is very common, and we use engineers all the time to do marketing stuff. That is what I wanted to explain today, and that is exactly what engineers are doing on marketing. They do all this stuff. Actually, they do marketing, because all the stuff that you just saw, those stuff are the marketing elements of today. Otherwise, you try to get tomorrow's customers using yesterday's tool. And even if you will do that, your competitor will not. The competitor will definitely use the latest trends and will use those latest trends to beat you, clearly. And especially if you are about to have a global market, it makes sense for you to be up to the level that even your international competitors will not beat you. It's, for me, it's so clear. And it's quite easy to understand that even living in country like Greece, it's not very difficult to create an international business. By using those tools, you didn't see any locality in those, right? You didn't. So by using the same tools, and those tools are tools that even companies from abroad, they don't use them. They don't know how to create an inbound circuit. They don't have that element that will make a difference. For example, they try to activate, let's see an example. They try to activate users from trial to paid using traditional methods, such as calling the customers, such as trying to do concierge onboarding, as we call it, rather than trying to automate the whole flow by analyzing the user and by doing all the other stuff. So the method of how to create something that could scale up is there. And we just need to understand that marketeers alone, they do not do the job. Engineers alone, they cannot do the job. By putting them together, we create something absolutely perfect. Because all the technical stuff that we do are so deep in the technical aspect. All the marketing stuff that we do are very deep in technical aspect. Even try to do Google ads or Facebook ads, the typical stuff. They're so complicated that if you want to actually nail it, you need to deep dive into technical aspects. Otherwise, you just stay in the surface and you do the same that everybody else is doing. The point is in differentiating yourself from others. And you can do that by just analyzing and by analyzing the technical depth of the things that you need to do. That is all, and thank you very much for your time.